Bittangabee Tribe, an Aboriginal story from coastal New South Wales, written by Beryl Cruz, Rebecca Kirby, Liddy Stewart and Stephen Thomas. Bittangabee Tribe. Ninamar was a great warrior who lived on the coast of Bittangabee on the sea. His wife was called Mina. They had 2 sons, Murra and Walla, and a daughter, Kaya. They loved the sea, where they could always eat abalone, oysters, other shellfish, crabs and lobster. In the summer, they loved going to the mountains where they could feast on the bogong moths and kangaroos. Up in the mountains, people from all over would meet. The men would trade weapons and tools and share their stories and songs and dances. The women would trade baskets, tools, possum skins, and also their songs and dances. Marriages were often arranged between the different tribes. The men would dance in big corroborees, while the women sang and played the clapsticks and possum skin drums. Ninamar would go with the men and climb up to the tops of the mountains to caves where the bogong moths, in their millions, could be found sleeping through the summer. Ninamar's 2 sons, Murra and Walla, would go hunting kangaroos. They went with their grandfather, Bittangabee, who was old and wise. He taught them how to hunt for the kangaroos. Mina and her daughter Kaya would search for nuts and berries with the other women. They would also go to paint on the rocks on the mountains. They made paintings of stories and legends which can be still seen today. At evening time, the men would return to the camps with loads of moths, which they put on the hot coals to cook. The people would have a great feast of moths, kangaroo, nuts and berries. All summer they stayed in the mountains, and there was always a happy time. There is a certain flower that grows in the forests. It is a white flower. When Ninamar saw this flower, he knew they would have to leave and go back down to the coast because the lobsters would be coming in close to the rocks. Then they would pack up and start walking for home, stopping at their favourite camping places on the way. A month later, they would arrive at Bittangabee. It would be great to be back home by the sea, to breathe the fresh salt air, to hear the seagulls calling out, and to see the great sea eagle hovering in the sky. Ninamar and Mina would build a new camp and then rest, waiting for the low tide. At low tide, Murra and Walla would go with their father, who taught them how to catch the lobster. Getting into the water around the rocks, Ninamar would feel in the crevices of the rocks with his feet until he could feel the hard, spiny body of the lobster. Then he would dive down quickly and grab it. Sometimes the water was fairly still, and Ninamar could spear the lobsters with his spear. They would only catch enough lobster for each meal. That way, no food was wasted. The lobster was cooked in its shell on the hot coals, along with the fish that Mina and Kaya had caught that day. They would have a delicious meal. At evening time, Ninamar would walk to the rocks and sit and look out to sea, feeling tired and happy about the sea and the land, his mother, thinking about how the sea and the land would look after his family and his children's family and so on. They would always look after his people. And that's the end of the story.